Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, and we are presented by FanDuel. We appreciate you being here and listening into us. The AP poll was released on Sunday afternoon. Zach and I are going to do our normal Tuesday morning thing here on the podcast. Talk through the AP poll. What do we like? What do we dislike? We'll give our own top 25s to make sure we are giving our own opinions and not just subjecting others to our opinions as well. And then give you our college football playoff predictions at the end of the episode. So stick with us. We appreciate you being here, and let's welcome in one Zach Guggenheim, who just loves the AP poll. I know he loves the AP poll.
It's like drawing on a chalkboard. That's what it is.
Yeah. With your nails.
Yeah. Sorry, fingernails on a chalkboard. That's what I meant to say. How is Florida State so much lower than Alabama?
I mean, they lost to Virginia.
But Florida State beat Alabama by 2 scores.
We'll talk about it. I don't dislike it. I have Alabama way over Florida State in my
Okay.
Yeah. I don't dislike it. So, all right. We appreciate everybody being here. Just coming off talking some Ryan Fitzgerald. Or Pat Fitzgerald. Just said Ryan because Illini Bubba's comment there. Talking about some Pat Fitzgerald and stuff like that. So the comments going crazy about that. But we are going to get to this AP poll, which is going to be fun to discuss. So we've got it here. Oh, where'd that go? There he is. So the AP poll, I'll read it off for us really fast, and then Zach can start with his thoughts. And maybe we'll start at Alabama, Florida State, have a nice little fun debate between me and Zach. So the AP poll goes, Ohio State stays number 1. However, some votes for first place did go to Oregon at number 2. Miami still had a few votes. They are number 3, followed by Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Texas A&M at number 6. Penn State only drops to 7, still staying high up there, followed behind by Indiana at 8. Texas, Alabama, Texas Tech, Georgia, LSU, Iowa State, Tennessee at number 15, then Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Missouri, Michigan, and then outside of the top 20, you have number 21, Notre Dame, Illinois, BYU, Virginia, and Arizona State. Zach, your reaction?
I think you just saw it. Or maybe heard it if you're on podcast.
To which one? Which one?
So many.
There were multiple of those moments that you gave throughout.
Okay. I get that USC lost, but they are not worse than Virginia. Stop it. Put them back in the poll. Oy. So that's one. That's the biggest one, if I'm honest.
I was going to say, should we compare Virginia's resume to USC's really fast? Virginia has beat Coastal Carolina. They lost at NC State. And then they beat William & Mary, Stanford, and Florida State. USC beat Missouri State. Who was it? Georgia Southern, at Purdue, Michigan State, and then lost by a single score at Illinois.
So they're rewarding UVA for what they deem as a better win.
Yes, but they still did not move UVA over Florida State.
Yeah. And UVA also lost to NC State, who's not good.
NC State was looking good there for a little bit. Who did they lose to?
They just lost to Virginia Tech.
Oh, yeah. Virginia Tech beat. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. And they also lost to Duke, which is at Duke. I get that. I don't hate that one, but.
No, Duke's decent, which adds to Illinois' Illinois feather in Illinois' cap, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of an impossible scenario to try and hold the Alabama, Florida State, and Virginia thing the right way. Because if you're going to do that, you probably would have to put all of them in the very middle of the poll. You'd have to put Virginia at like 12, Florida State at 13, and Alabama at 14. I mean, that doesn't make sense either, right? People would be up in arms about that.
Well,
you would have to put Virginia over Georgia to make that happen.
Yeah,
because you would have to have it go Virginia, Florida State, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee.
This is why I don't have Virginia in my poll at all.
Yeah, I didn't have.
But I do it. Either. But ironically, I have Florida State and Alabama 12 and 13. So I mean, you almost.
Yeah, you were still really high on Florida State.
I think they beat Alabama. I think they should be recognized for it. I also think more losses are coming that'll sink them down. But
Okay.
we'll talk about it later. Can I talk about one
Philip
thing?
says no G5 schools ranked. Philip, there's multiple ACC teams that are ranked. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Wow. Shots fired. I will say this though. Credit for putting Indiana above Texas, despite the fact that Texas was on a bye and Indiana struggled on the road. Good on them, recognizing greatness. Indiana should be higher than 8th, though.
Were you surprised to see Indiana move up that high, though? I mean, they were 11th last week, and they
I'm
move up 3
shocked.
spots after struggling on the road to Iowa.
I
don't hate it. Don't get me wrong. I'm
Yeah.
not arguing. I like that they put them up there, but I was shocked that they did that.
shocked. Although I think the fact that Illinois beat USC actually helped their cause. Because it was
Didn't
like
help Illinois all that much, though. Illinois moved up 1 spot. Like, that's the crazy thing to me. Like, Illinois was 23. They beat USC, who was 21. They move up 1 spot. I guess it was at home, but still, like.
Yeah, I think that win though validated Indiana blowing out a good opponent. I think a lot of people thought Illinois wasn't for real last week.
Mm-hmm.
Now they beat USC and they're like, oh, they are for real. It's just Illinois is darn good, and they beat. I think what is still a respected Iowa program at Iowa.
Yeah. It's hard right now with Michigan because Michigan lost to Oklahoma, who the AP poll has as a top 5 team right now. But Michigan still sits at only 20th. They lost on the road in the very first road game for the freshman quarterback, so they sit at 20th. Meanwhile, a team like Georgia, who loses at home to a team in Alabama who was barely top 20. I can't remember exactly where they were, but they were just inside the top 20. And Georgia only moves down to 12th. Like, Michigan at the very least should be above Tennessee. Am I crazy?
You're saying that Michigan should at least go above Tennessee. I think
Yes, and you have them above Tennessee in your poll, so you agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think Michigan, it's hard because I feel like not a lot of people respect Nebraska. And
which is insane. Nebraska should have been ranked when Michigan played them.
Yeah, well, and it goes back, I think there's inherent SEC bias in this poll.
Yeah, 100% there is.
Yeah, like, so I mean, you said it before. Like, I think Tennessee's decent. Like, I think they are maybe at the bottom 25. In fact, I have them 22nd. They're not 15th, which is why I don't have a lot of respect right now for Georgia. Even though I think they're good, I don't think they're great. And I think it's so frustrating.
I just think there's such a conundrum right now with teams like Georgia, Texas, Michigan, Alabama, and LSU, right? Because you have Alabama who lost to Florida State, but they went on to beat Georgia. You have Georgia who lost to Alabama, but they did beat Tennessee. You have Michigan who lost to Oklahoma, but Oklahoma's a top 5 team according to the AP poll. So you could say that's probably the best loss out of all of these. Texas obviously has the best loss, losing to Ohio State. But then you have LSU who loses to Ole Miss, and Ole Miss, like, they're having a good season so far, but I don't think anybody's looking at Ole Miss and saying they're a real national championship threat. They do not have the defense, and right now I don't want to disrespect Trinidad Chambliss because I do think he's playing well, but I'm curious what he's going to look like against a good defense. And I know some people think LSU has a good defense. I think LSU just faced Clemson. Clemson's offense is just bad. I don't know if I think LSU has a good defense or not. So I am thinking it's going to be very interesting what happens moving forward. But to me, those teams, LSU, Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, and Texas, are all kind of on the same plane, and it's one of the biggest reasons for SEC bias going on right now when you see all 4 of those teams in the top 15, including Tennessee, and Michigan is only 20th.
Yeah, well, and I think it goes back to the preseason right? Because LSU is still getting a bump from Clemson, and
which is ridiculous.
they're still getting a bump from Florida, who
Which is ridiculous. Yeah.
Florida is 1-3. They're not good. Clemson is 1-3. They're not good. So we honestly don't know how good or how bad LSU is. I can give you a hint. They're probably not as good as you think because Brian Kelly's their head coach. Not good. They're probably a top 25 team, but like LSU has several more losses on their schedule to this point. They might be out of the poll at some point because they play at Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, at Alabama. Yeesh. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean, the SEC has so much parity right now. It's the teams that kind of have the easiest schedules are going to be the ones that make it to the playoffs, I feel like. And that's one of the reasons why we get to the college football playoff predictions. That's why I have Ole Miss so high up there, is because they have one of the most favorable schedules remaining in the SEC. It's not that I think they're a great team or anything. I think they're a really good offense. I think they struggle defensively, and that's going to come back to bite them. But they have one of the most favorable schedules in the SEC, which is going to put them pretty highly ranked in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ole Miss has a very, very easy schedule. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're good. I think they're decent, right? Like I think Lane Kiffin, as much crap as we give Lane Kiffin, he's a good coach. I'm interested to see what they do with Washington State in a couple weeks because Washington State played Washington.
Let me mention one more thing on the top 5, and then we'll get to Washington State. Sorry, I want to mention one more thing. 3 of the top 5 teams in the betting odds for national championship are not in the top 8. Alabama, Texas, and Georgia. And 3 of the teams in the top 5 in the AP poll are not in the top 5 of odds to win the national championship on FanDuel: Miami, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma. It's kind of crazy right now the way this AP poll is turning out and the way the odds are not really changing. I mean, you saw Penn State move down a little bit, but Penn State is still really high up there. And I think it just kind of speaks to the way the voters are voting this season. I don't know if I like it better or if I dislike it. I'm not really too sure because it is so, still at week 6, it is so like you lose this game, boom, you're all the way out of the playoff, the AP poll. Like, to me, USC should not have been moved out for Virginia, and I don't think Georgia should have moved all the way from 4th to 12th. But that's the product of what you have when you lose to an Alabama team that lost to Florida State. Like, my biggest takeaway from this is the AP poll has no idea what to do when there's not a clear-cut team in the SEC.
Oh, agreed. Totally. Well, the fact that Ole Miss is number 4, despite they have one win that you're like, oh, that's good. And we're not even sure how good LSU is. And this goes but more to your point. The AP poll whiffed so bad in the preseason that we're actually less clear on who's good than before.
Yeah, because who was the top 10 in the preseason? LSU was in there. They're out of the top 10. Illinois was in there. They're out of the top 20. Notre Dame was in there. They're not in the top 20 either. Trying to think of who else. Georgia was up there. They're not in there anymore. Clemson was up there. They're not even ranked.
So here's your top 10 from preseason. It was Texas number 1, Penn State number 2, Ohio State number 3, Clemson number 4, Georgia number 5, Notre Dame 6, Oregon 7, Alabama 8, LSU 9, Miami 10. So out of all this, Texas lost week 1, who is your number 1 team, and you still don't know if they have good talent, but like what's Arch going to be? Penn State showed that they're vulnerable. Clemson, LOL. Georgia, we're not sure. Notre Dame lost their 2 biggest games.
Georgia doesn't have nearly the front 7 that they've had in the past, and they have just as bad a wide receivers. They have a Stetson Bennett somewhat level quarterback in Gunnar Stockton. He's able to move the ball down the field. I think Stetson Bennett was still better than Gunnar Stockton, but he's at least on that level somewhat, right?
Yeah.
But they don't have Mike Bobo is not Todd Monken.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to mistake him for that anytime soon. So
Yeah.
it's just really, really interesting the way the top 10 is working out and how AP poll voters are trying to figure things out when everything just kind of goes to crap with what they thought in the preseason, and especially with the SEC what they thought as well.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry Zach, I interrupted you. You can go ahead and do your
Well, no.
Washington State thing now.
Well, I was just going to say it'll be interesting to see Ole Miss play Washington State because Ole Miss and Washington, it'll be a common opponent for maybe where I think Ole Miss is comparatively is like a Washington. Maybe now, maybe I'm wrong.
Is that game at Ole Miss?
I think so.
I think
Let me
has to
see.
be.
It is. Let me
Can't
check
imagine
here.
They play that at
Yeah,
Washington State.
it's in Oxford. It's in Oxford.
That is going to be the hard part because Washington did travel to Washington State, albeit not a far travel. Obviously, it's in the state, but still, yeah, it's going to be very interesting how that one turns out.
Yeah, yeah. So I will say this. I think like every other year, Alabama has a loss where you're like, oh, that's the end of it. Alabama's going away. I'm not sure the Georgia win validates that Alabama is definitely back, even though that's what my playoff bracket will indicate. But I do wonder if they're back.
I mean, was it all that much different than last year, though? Like, I didn't catch all of that game. I watched most of it. But, like, Alabama didn't score in the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah. They scored, they came out on fire and scored 27 points in the first half. You know, they scored, I think, 34 in the first half last year against Georgia, and then they scored a touchdown late to give them the game. The difference in this one is that Georgia is just so, I don't want to say inept, but not good on offense that they weren't even able to score more than a touchdown in the second half. All you needed was a touchdown and a field goal to tie it up, but they still weren't able to make that happen.
Yeah.
I mean, credit Alabama's defense, but Alabama jumps all the way from 17th to 10th. Georgia jumps all the way from 5th down to 12th. I mean, I guess it is an even 7-7 drop and jump, but still.
Yeah. There's lots of questions for sure. Interestingly enough, their game against Vanderbilt is going to be really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm. It is. It
is.
All right, well, let's do our top 25, Zach. I'll go first with mine. I'm just going to go through it really quick, and then we'll go through yours really quick because I feel like we've already talked about the top 25 a bunch. So my top 25, I have Ohio State number 1. Gave a lot of thought to Oregon at number 1. They did have the better win, but I think that if Washington is the team that I think they are, then I think that Ohio State has the better secondary win, which is not nearly as impressive as Oregon's win at Penn State in the whiteout, but still I think is enough to jump them up there because Oregon's second best win is Northwestern on the road, and I just don't think that compares to Washington at all. Followed by that is Miami, Indiana. I have at number 4. Don't call me crazy for that. Multiple AP voters had Indiana up there at 4 as well. I do have Ole Miss, more resume based. I don't know if they're the 5th best team in the nation, but resume based, they're up there. Texas A&M, Oklahoma. We'll see what they are without John Mateer. Vanderbilt, I have in the top 10. Well, I mean, they're winning. And I think right now there's not a lot of people that want to give them credit for it. I get it. But I'm willing to give them credit if they win. Then I have Penn State at 9, Alabama 10, Texas Tech. This is where I have that bunch I was talking about with Texas at 12, then LSU, Michigan, Georgia, and then Illinois at number 16, 17, Notre Dame. I know they have 2 losses, but this is still a team that they played 2 really tough opponents, it feels like, so they need to be up there. I still have USC in the top 20 at number 18, followed by Iowa State, Georgia Tech, Washington at number 21, Memphis, Florida State, Nebraska at number 24, and Maryland at number 25. Any comments on that before we get to your Zach?
I mean, you definitely punished Florida State. You definitely punished them.
I don't think I had them as high as you. I think I had them. I need to go back and check for sure. I only had them about 15 or 16.
Yeah, I had them as a top 10 team.
Yeah,
but
did.
But no, I can see where you get everything, and I think that makes sense.
Good. I try to make sense. All right.
Yeah.
Well, here, let me see the comments really fast just to make sure. PK says, I like it. Appreciate it, PK. Blue Wolverine with the eyeballs. Yes, you see your Wolverines up there. I'll give the Wolverines credit when they deserve credit. I'm not a complete hater. Uh, hey, Max is all about it. He says, nobody cares about the AP poll. We want the Big Ten Huddle poll. We will have to put together a poll here in the next few weeks that combines me, you, and Jeff all three of us. That would be interesting to do. Yeah. So Blueprint says lies. Hey, chill. All right, Zach, you go with yours.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I gave no consideration to Oregon at 1. Because I am a hater, apparently. No, I would argue that Ohio State still has the best win, and I think they have a better second win at Washington than anybody. I think that's maybe the best set of wins that anybody has currently, based on how I'm seeing teams. So that's my concession that Ohio State's won, but I do think Oregon's number 2. Miami 3, Indiana 4. I have Texas A&M 5. I'm becoming more of a believer in A&M. I have Ole Miss 6, Oklahoma 7, mostly because Mateer is hurt. I think if Mateer wasn't hurt, I would have put him at 5. Texas 8, Vandy 9. I really hate that I have 5 SEC teams 5 through 9, but also I think they kind of deserve it. So,
well, it does speak to the parity of the
yeah,
conference, and I mean, you also don't value Penn State very much, so that's going to naturally happen. Because
yeah,
I don't know if there's another argument for another Big Ten team to be even, I wouldn't say even
yeah,
close, but to be in the Big Ten right now. If Michigan wins some more games, they will
yeah,
be. But
yeah. I have Texas Tech 10, Georgia Tech 11, Florida State 12, Alabama 13, Penn State 14, which I know is going to get me some flack, but I said it in our takeaways. I just don't see a top 10 team right now. I think their defense is very good. I think they were aided by the whiteout tremendously. I want to see them. I want to see them bounce back. I want to see them how they do against maybe more than just Villanova, if I'm being honest. LSU 15, Michigan 16, Georgia 17, Missouri 18, Iowa State 19, Illinois 20, USC 21. I'm not going to punish USC for losing to Illinois that much. I'm just going to put them a hair under Illinois. Tennessee 22, Washington 23, Maryland 24, and Utah rounding it out at 25.
there you go. Did you give any thought to Nebraska with how Cincinnati is 3-1 and currently favored to beat? Who are they playing this weekend? They're playing. Cincinnati's favored at home over Iowa State by 1.5 on FanDuel.
Interesting. I didn't think about it a ton more because I still think I was actually debating between Utah and BYU, and I went Utes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I went Utes, but I think there's certainly conversation to be had about Nebraska.
That makes sense. There was some Old Dominion chat in there. No, I did not put Old Dominion in my top 25. However, I will give you a stat here. Zach, there are 4 G5 teams in the top 8 with percentage odds to go undefeated the rest of the year greater than 10%. Can you name those 4 teams that are G5?
This is to make the playoffs?
No, this is just to win out the rest of the
Oh,
year.
to win out.
Yeah. So they don't have to be undefeated right now, but they win the rest of their games.
I'd say Memphis.
Memphis is 3rd, yes.
Um,
3rd in the G5, not 3rd overall. 3rd in the group of 5 teams.
yeah, man.
2 of them are from the MAC, and 1 of them I just mentioned.
Is Toledo one of them?
Toledo is the highest, yes, 15.5%.
Ohio?
Ohio is 4th, 13.2%. You're good at this.
Oh, but who's the one that you just mentioned?
Indiana. They were asking about it. They're on our top 25.
Oh,
Old
gosh.
Dominion.
Old Dominion. Oh, sorry. You just said it. Wow. My bad.
Yes, Old Dominion sits at 3-1. They have a 13.8% chance to win out the rest of the season. So, it's a pretty interesting put together there. It is still a G5 team, but hey, if they went out the rest of the season and make the playoffs, that's a nice little. Even if they don't make the playoffs, if they still go like 10-2 or something like that, that would be a nice little feather in the cap for Indiana to fall back on and say, hey, not every team we faced in the out of conference was bad. Look at Old Dominion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We'll see how it plays out. But all right, Zach, let's get to our college football playoff predictions. Here is mine. I still have Ohio State at number 1, followed by Oregon at number 2. I think it's a very likely possibility both of those two teams win out the rest of the year. They are number 1, number 2, face each other in the Big Ten championship game. And then we see the same thing as last year where you just keep the same spot after the championship game. And then I have Miami number 3, Ole Miss at number 4. I don't know if they win the SEC championship or not, but I think they could be up there on the top 5 to stay if they keep winning. Number 5, I have Indiana. Then number 6, Alabama. 7, Texas Tech. 8, Georgia. 9, Notre Dame. Winner of that game plays Ohio State. I think almost for sure, if that possibility is there, the committee will definitely put those two teams together to try and play Ohio State, because at this point it's just destiny. Ohio State has played Notre Dame every year somehow. They played them the last 3 years. And if they don't get them, who says no to Ohio State Georgia matchup in the playoffs in the second round? After what we saw a few years ago, would love to see it. And then number 10, I have Texas, followed by Penn State at number 11 with my group of 5 team. Memphis at number 12. Almost did Toledo again, but decided to go with the team that has showed it a little bit more lately and went with Memphis. Any thoughts?
Nice. I am surprised you have Notre Dame in, because their schedule just got blown up this past weekend.
Yeah, but Notre Dame. If they win out, and I think there's enough parity in the sport right now. If they just keep winning, they're already in the top 25 right now.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard for them. It's gonna be
right. They lost to Northern Illinois, and then they just killed teams down the stretch.
Yeah, but they beat teams that people respected, right? Like they beat Texas A&M in the opener at Texas A&M. They had a couple of decent wins to put a feather in their cap. Let me just look at the schedule to make sure.
I mean, after not really.
They also just lost once. They didn't lose twice.
Yeah, but they were a what seed were they? 8.
Yeah,
because they got the home field against Indiana.
They beat Louisville, who they were 8-4, so they were not ranked, but they were a decent
They were 15th
team
at the time.
Yeah, they beat Navy, who was number 24, number 19 Army. So no, their schedule was not great, but they did only lose one, and they beat Texas A&M at Texas A&M, and they didn't finish ranked.
Yeah. I mean, this schedule is dog crap. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Boise State, NC State, USC, at Boston College, Navy, at Pittsburgh, Syracuse, and at Stanford.
Yeah.
But I think Marcus Freeman has played the style points game before, and I think he knows what he's doing. And I think USC, even if they're not ranked, that's going to be a Big Ten team you have a win against if you beat them. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not fully confident that they're going to beat them. But if they do, and then, I mean, some of these ACC teams are just bad.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's true.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like there's enough parity right now, especially with what we're seeing from the SEC, that I feel like Notre Dame will find a way to sneak in there. Maybe I have them too high at 9th, but I think they'll find a way.
It is possible. They also have to deal with USC.
Yeah.
That could be a win that really that if they can beat USC and USC wins out after that, I think that could be.
Parker asks, do you like Marcus Freeman? I like Marcus Freeman. I don't have a problem with him.
The guy,
he tried to go out of his way a little bit to try and ingratiate himself to Notre Dame, but hey, it worked for him. The Notre Dame fans seem to like him. So
they got to a national championship game. They beat Georgia. They beat Penn State last year. He's lost some games that he shouldn't have lost, but the dude's a great coach, and he's only going to get better.
Yeah. Billy Tuesday asked if I meant USC was crap. No, I'm not. Unless you're talking to somebody else, Billy Tuesday. You might be talking to somebody else in the comments. I called Notre Dame's schedule crap. I'm not saying USC is crap. I have them ranked 18th in my top 25. So I still think it would be an impressive win if Notre Dame gets the win. But I don't know if others would see it that way, right? I think that's kind of the hardest thing right now. So just wanted to clarify that. All right, Zach, your college football playoff prediction. Go for it.
Yeah. So top four or my top three are pretty similar. I just have Oregon and Miami flip flopped, but like Oregon will still be in the same bracket essentially, or it's same side of the bracket. So I have Ohio State 1, Miami 2, Oregon 3. I have Alabama 4. I think they're going to win out. Maybe it's just the memories of Nick Saban, but
I don't know. They might lose to Vanderbilt this weekend, man.
they might. If they do, then they'll be out of my playoff prediction. But I just wonder if the juggernaut train is starting to get back on track. We know that Kalen DeBoer, like we gave him a lot of crap when he lost to FSU, but he's a good coach. And I wonder if they're able to get things back on track. So I've got Bama 4, Texas 5.
Is Kalen DeBoer a good coach?
What he did at Washington was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I would argue.
I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I'm just saying I think some people think of him as a great coach. I don't think so. Maybe not as many since he lost to Florida State. But sorry, go ahead. I'm starting a different conversation.
I think he's a really. I'll just say I think he's a really good coach. I don't know if he's great.
Yeah.
So
okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Texas 5, because I think Texas's talent's going to win out a lot of games down the stretch. Like and I think Arch is going to figure some things out. So I like Texas at 5, Indiana at 6, Texas Tech as the Big 12 champ at 7, Ole Miss at 8, Georgia Tech at 9. I just don't see them losing more than like one game. And then Texas A&M at 10. I've got Michigan at 11.
Yeah, some people are asking about that over Penn State. So why don't you talk through that a little bit for them?
So I just look at Michigan's schedule, and Michigan, their schedule is Wisconsin, at USC, home against Washington, at Michigan State, Purdue at home, at Northwestern, at Maryland, Ohio State. I think there's a really good chance with that schedule, if they continue to progress, they go 10-2 or 11-1. I'm not so sure Penn State doesn't go 9-3.
Yeah, I mean, people need to watch out for that Indiana game. That's all I'm saying. Like the Indiana smoke is not fake this year. I think some people kind of saw it a little bit as fake last year, and I don't think it was entirely fake, but I do think it was a learning experience for them last year. This Indiana team is legit. I know everybody's going to look at last year and say, oh, you lost to Notre Dame and Ohio State. That's fine, but this is a team that also beat Michigan last year. So let's see.
Yeah. Well, and if Penn State doesn't change the offense, that makes them vulnerable. And they would be particularly vulnerable against a team like Indiana, who beat another team that was better than them on the lines a year ago, but was vulnerable offensively, Michigan. So I'm not saying that Penn State is broken offensively like Michigan was a year ago, but there are major issues on that offense. So in this scenario, Michigan would get the nod at the 11 seed and then Memphis at 12.
It's kind of wild. We're saying that Penn State is the one with issues on offense after what Michigan put out there last year, and now they have a true freshman quarterback at quarterback. Penn State should not be the team we're talking about here with offensive issues.
Well, and Michigan,
insane.
Michigan does have issues.
And that's a compliment. But not what they had last year. I'm complimenting Michigan here by saying you're able to fix some things and not have nearly as many issues. It's a competent offense this year at the very least. Could be better than that. But that's what I'm saying is like just so crazy about this conversation to be like, oh yeah, Michigan, who had one of the worst offenses in all of college football last year, they got a true freshman quarterback, and now this offense is competent enough. And Penn State is the one that we're like, are they going to make the playoffs? Because Drew Aller just can't get out of his own head, it seems like.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had them 11th, so I'm not bashing you at all.
No, well, and I think Penn State has a chance to get in, but they're going to have a hard conversation even if they just lose to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fact that Indiana blew out Illinois, if they continue the trajectory, then I think Penn State has a much better case. But I think they will. But I don't think the Indiana game's a gimme. Like at this point, I would pick Indiana to beat Penn State, even at Penn State.
I don't know. I'm still going back and forth on that. I give the lean to Indiana in my power rankings, but at Penn State, we'll see.
Remember, Penn State has to play Ohio State the week before.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We will see how it goes. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be fun. And we're going to get to it all. And Zach and I are going to get to bed after this one. And we appreciate you being here. Zach, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your thoughts about the AP poll top 25, giving your own 25 and your college football playoff predictions. Is there anything else you would like to get to before we get out of here?
I'd like to get to bed.
All right. Well, we will get you to bed. Don't you worry, Zach. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being in the chat. If you're listening on podcast, thank you for being here as well. I would just like to remind everybody, we take shots at teams and have some fun sometimes, but don't take everything too seriously. Okay. Sometimes it's all just in good fun and stuff. So sometimes I do say things that are, tough on others, but it's like we're having a good time here. So. And yeah,
Max is having a great time.
He is. Max always has a great time. We appreciate how much fun Max has with us here.
I will rest easy.
There you go. You can rest knowing that the Big Ten has the top 4 teams in SP Plus, Zach, as I know SP Plus is what you look to more often than anything else.
That I'm just astonished. It's a dream, isn't it?
This is what you've always wanted.
This is the best day of my life.
Do you know what order they're in, by the way?
I'm going to assume it's Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State.
I just had it pulled up. I can't find it now. Well, this is very anticlimactic. I had it pulled up and everything. Now I can't find it. Well, it will just have to remain a mystery unless somebody looks it up for themselves, and we'll see where it goes from here. So thank you so much for listening, everybody. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time. See ya.